Hello students. So students, in the previous class in this chapter, that is living things and their surrounding, we were talking about that of the characteristic of the living thing. So we have seen here, student, that what are the different characteristics of a living things, including that how they used to grow, how the living things they respire but non-living thing does not. Living things, they used to excrete. It means they used to release their waste material from the body, but non-living thing does not. Now, living things, they used to show the reproduction. It means they used to reproduce. They used to grow into, they used to give birth to their young ones. This happens with the plants also. They used to grow into new plant with the help of the seed. But in case of the non-living thing, it does not like that. They do not reproduce. If we talk about the living thing, they need food, okay, for survival. They need air, okay. But in case of the non-living thing, they do not need food or air. Now, living things, they are having the definite lifespan. It means the period from the birth to the death of a person, that is lifespan. So they always have a definite lifespan. But in case of a non-living thing, they do not have a definite lifespan. It means they can be there for a few hours or for a few years. So the same object, the same non-living object, it means if you have taken a chair, so the same chair can be there for 15 days, it can be there for 15 years. So you can say that it does not have a definite lifespan. But the living beings, the living things, they have. So you see, student, how can we say that an object is a living thing? Okay, so these characteristics make a living thing differ from that of the non-living things. Now in this chapter, student, living things and their surrounding, we will discuss the next topic, and that is habitat. Habitat. Now, if we talk about the habitat, what is the habitat? So, in the chapter itself, it is given living things and their surrounding. So, surrounding. So, a living thing where they live, the place where they live, they survive, that is their habitat. Okay? So, the surrounding is the habitat. So, we have seen what is living thing, what are the characteristics of the living things. Now, what is their surrounding? So this we will study in that of its habitat. Okay, so what is a habitat? The place or surrounding. The place or surroundings where the place or surrounding where a plant or an animal live. Okay? Where a plant or an animal live, that is known as it is called as its habitat. Okay, so the place where a plant or an animal live, that is called its habitat. It means the surrounding where a plant or that of the animal they survive, that is known as the habitat here. Okay, now what means if we are saying the place, so why they are living at that place? The question arises that okay, this is their surrounding. So in which kind of a surrounding you want to live? Absolutely, which will provide comfort to you, which will help you to fulfill all the necessity that you wanted to survive. So we can say, okay, they used to live in such kind of a surrounding where this is their basic necessity things can be fulfilled easily. So habitat is what? Habitat provide it that comfort, it provide all the things which is necessary for them. So we can write that a habitat provide, what is the thing which is needed for every living organism, student? The first thing that is needed is food. You will live in such kind of a place from where you will get a sufficient amount of a food. So habitat provide food. Now, is only the food which is what you need, student? No. Not only the food, but you also need water. Water is a very important one. So water. Now you are having food and water, but you do not have a good air, or you don't have air, so absolutely you will be not able to survive. So we can say that food is important, water is important, as well as air. So air is also very important, student. Then light, sufficient amount of light should be there. Even if we see in case of the plants, so they need sunlight so that they can prepare their own food. So light is also very important. Light. Now, not only light but shelter. So you are having all these things, but you do not have the shelter where you can live. That is important one. So we can say that light and shelter. Shelter, that is protection. So shelter is what? When you are inside your house, you feel protected, right? And the same thing happens with the other animals or the living organisms as well. Okay, so they need shelter, which is a kind of a protection for them. As well as, okay, you are having all these things. So what you want after that, you want to increase the number of your species. So that place must be a good place for the breeding. Okay, so we can write it. And a place for breeding to the plants and animals. Okay, plants and animals living in it. Okay, so this is what is the habitat, students. So don't get confused whenever this question is asked that what is the habitat. In a very simple term, you will say that habitat is what? It is the surrounding where a living organism survive, where a living organism live. Now, why it is important to have such kind of a surrounding? So actually, it is the habitat. The habitat used to provide each and everything that they want for their survival, for their growth. Okay, so the thing which is important for their survival is the water is there, food is there, air is there, light is there, student, and shelter. So these all are very necessary, as well as they also want to increase their number, their species. So that place must be a good breeding place for the living organism, of that particular living organism. Okay, so we have understood the term habitat. Now you see that is it same for everyone, same for all the type of plant or the all type of animal? No, absolutely not. If we talk about the cactus, or if we talk about the lotus, or if we talk about the rose, so you see these all are flower only. They are having this beautiful essence, but you see that their habitat is totally different. Sorry, not the cactus. So cactus is a kind of a plant. Then lotus we will say, we said that rose or dahlia we will take. So if suppose these all are the plants, we know that. So we can say that if you look at their survival, you will find that these three are having different habitat also. When you see the cactus, it generally grows in the desert area. If you see the rose, it generally grows in the land area, okay, green land area. And if you look at the lotus, it generally grows in water. So you see here, student, these all are the plant, Okay, they all need oxygen for the survival, they all need water, but they are having different habitat, they are living in different situations, and it is because of their own property. So the same thing you can check with that of the animals also. So if you look at the camels, so they used to survive they are able to survive even in the desert area. If you look at the snow leopard, so they used to survive in a place where a lot snow occurs, means in a cold climate or a cold place. And if you look at the elephant, Indian elephant, so basically they used to live in the Greenland area. Horses, so they used to grow in the Greenland area, the plain area. So here it occurs because of their own habitats, because of their own properties, their own way of survival. Okay, so although we will discuss that what happened, what is an adaptation and everything, but you have seen here that habitat also varies. Means there is no one habitat fit for each and every animals, but it also differ. So what are the different types of a habitat, students? So there are some of the examples of the habitat, that is aquatic, then terrestrial habitat is also there. Okay. So first of all, let me write that what are the different examples of the habitat. Different examples of habitat. Forest, then Greenland, then garden, then desert, garden, desert, soil, hills, soil is there, hills is there, homes, trees, river, sea, river, sea, pond, then ocean or lake, seashore, seashore is there. Okay, so these are what, student, these are the different examples of the habitat. And a plant or an animal, a plant or an animal is adapted to survive, is adapted to survive in its habitat. So they adapt themselves so that they can survive in a particular habitat. You see, students, some of the living organisms are there which used to live in the forest area. There are living organisms which used to live in the grassland. Some of them they used to grow in the garden area. Some are there who used to grow in the desert area. Some of them they only grow in the soil. Okay, although we can say that these all also consisting of a soil, absolutely. Then some of them are there which used to grow in the hilly area. They used to grow in the home. Here homes means what, student, here basically it is related to that of the garden area only. Now tree homes, you have seen that some of them are grow in the pots also. So people they used to grow in the pot in their home. Now tree, river is there, students. So yes, a river. Then sea is there. Some of the living organisms used to live in the sea, pond, and some of them used to live in the seashore. So we can say that these are the different examples of the habitat, and the plants or the animals, they used to adapt themselves so that they can survive in any of the habitat. Okay, so adaptation, we will talk about that how a plant or the animal used to make themselves in such a way that they can survive in their habitat. Okay. Now we have seen that these all are the different examples of the habitat, but we had divided the habitat. If we talk about the types of the habitat, so basically habitat has been classified into two major types. First one is the terrestrial, second one is the aquatic. Okay, so we can write it all the habitat can be divided into two main types. Okay, divided into two main groups, into two main groups. That is, the first one is terrestrial habitat. And the second one is aquatic habitat. Terrestrial habitat and the second one is the aquatic. So all the different types of a habitat has been classified into two main groups, and that is the terrestrial and aquatic habitat. Now let us see then what is there in case of the terrestrial, and then we will see the aquatic. So if we see that of the terrestrial students, so the name terrestrial, actually it is related to the land. Okay, so a habitat which is actually a habitat which is on the land. So in place of the terrestrial habitat, we can also write it as a land habitat. Okay, so we can write it that it is a land-based habitat. Land-based habitat is called as the terrestrial habitat. Is called a terrestrial habitat. Okay, it is called a terrestrial habitat. Okay, and so we can say that a plant or an animal who live, or plants or the animals who used to live on the land, who used to survive on the land, they are showing the terrestrial habitat, or they possess the terrestrial habitat. So we can say that the plants and the animals who live on land are said to live in terrestrial habitat. terrestrial habitat. Okay, so all the plants and the animals who live on the land, who used to survive on the land, we can say that they shows the terrestrial habitat, or they are in the terrestrial habitat. Okay, now what are the different examples of the terrestrial habitat? So we have seen that example of the habitat, we have seen the trees are there, soil is there, garden is there, forest is there, even we have seen the sea or the lake or the seashore, even ocean. So all these are the examples of habitat. But if we see the example of the terrestrial habitat, so we will include all the different example of the land which is on the land. Example of terrestrial habitat, student, these are desert, mountain, desert, mountains, forest, mountain, forest, grassland, garden, field, soil, home. These all are what? These all are the example of the terrestrial habitat. So you see, student, all these things are on the land. So we can say that here, since it is on the land, so they belongs to the terrestrial habitat. Now we can understand this. Now suppose if we take an example of a cactus plant. So if we take an example of a cactus plant, so a cactus and a camel live in desert area, or we can say that they used to live in a dry land. Desert means what? That is a dry land only. Okay, that is called desert. So we can say that since they are living in the desert area, so absolutely they belongs to which habitat? They belongs to terrestrial habitat. Okay, so we can write it. Thus, cactus and camel belongs to the terrestrial habitat. Terrestrial habitat. Okay, so cactus is there, camel is there, they used to live on a dry land, and that dry land is a desert, and we know that the example of the terrestrial habitat is desert also. So all the plants or the animals who used to live in the desert area, that will come into the terrestrial habitat. Now we have seen here about that of the terrestrial habitat. Now let us see the another kind of a habitat, that is the second type of a habitat, that is aquatic habitat. Aquatic habitat. Now you see here, student, one thing. The name is aquatic. Now, this term actually came from a name that is known as aqua. Aqua means water. Okay? Aqua means water. So, you have heard about aqua guard, no? Or aquifer. So this is what aqueous solution. So it is what that is related to the water only. Okay, a guard which used to protect that of the water. That is why it is named as an aqua guard, like that. Okay, so here what does I want to convey? What does I want to tell you? That aquatic term consisting of a aqua, and aqua means what? So by this the concept is clear. It means it is what? It is a water-based habitat. Terrestrial was a land-based habitat, and aquatic was is a water-based habitat. So we can write it. Aqua means water. Okay, aqua means water. Okay, it means water. So it is the, we can say that a water based habitat. A water based habitat is called an aquatic habitat. Aquatic habitat. Okay, a water based habitat is called an aquatic habitat. Okay, now the plants and the animals which used to live in the water is said to be the consisting of aquatic habitat. Okay, so we can write it. The plants and the animals which live in water are said to live in aquatic habitat. Okay, so we can say that a plant or the animal which used to live in the water consisting of the aquatic habitat. Okay, so plants and the animal living in that of the habitat, it means living in the water consisting of the aquatic habitat. What is the example, student, of the aquatic habitat? So examples of aquatic habitat are pond is there, then lakes are there, students, then river is there, swamp is there, river is there, swamp is there, ocean. These all are what? Example of the aquatic habitat. We can take an example to understand that, like if we talk about water hyacinth or a fish. If we take water the water hyacinth and fish are said to live in water, so we can say that they are in aquatic habitat. Okay, so you see here students that there is if we have taken example of that of the terrestrial habitat and aquatic habitat, and we have understood that the plant and the animal living on the land, that comes in a terrestrial habitat, and the plant and animal living in the water comes in the aquatic habitat. Okay.